Good morning, Cubs Nation. We are back with another edition of Cubs Daily. My name is Steven Ryan, presented by FanArch. The winter meetings are in full swing. No major moves have been made by the Cubs or any team in general, but we're going to go over all of the stuff that I've been reading. I haven't heard directly from anyone. I don't got sources like that, but hope to grow into that situation. But before we get into all that, I just want to give everyone a big thank you again for all of the support this channel has seen in the last 8 months. You guys have taken this channel from 0 to over 160 subscribers. If you guys are new and on the road to 1K with me, hit that subscribe button and continue to like the videos. And of course, share your thoughts down below on who you think the Chicago Cubs should be acquiring this offseason. Yesterday, we talked about it, right? We talked about how we got Bob Nightingale on Saturday with the Zach Gallen deal. Actually, congratulations to Mr. Gallen. He got engaged this week, according to his Instagram post, so it was the only contract he has signed so far. We just got word also from Buster Olney that apparently this offseason the moves are going to be slowly dispersing, right? It's not going to be one big collage, but we just know that a lot of baseball executives are in the same hotel and they are discussing deals, and rumors are flying. So, I'm going to start off with a couple of targets that the Cubs have been linked to in the previous trade deadline, see if maybe that's something possible for the Cubs in this situation, and then we're going to get to a couple of other names that I'm hearing. Of course, you see Zach Gallen at the bottom there, and apparently talks are intensifying on that. We're also going to name some other names as well. There's just a lot to get into, so let's get on into it, shall we? So, Mackenzie Gore, that was a big trade target, right, last season that the Cubs could potentially get into, but the Nationals wanted it a haul's worth. They wanted Cade Horton and or Matt Shaw, plus Casey Alcantara and all that other stuff, and honestly, that's just going to be a big no from us here in Chicago. We still also need that depth. As much as I personally love Mackenzie Gore's game, I think he's got that potential to be a true number one on any roster. That price does not fit the mold for this Cubs team, okay? As much as I would love him at the front of our line, that second half of his season really did not help him in any situation. And now the Nationals, with new ownership, are really starting to maybe consider kind of retooling a little bit, right? Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, and James Wood were the big three from that deal with Juan Soto a few years back. And all three have been up to the big leagues, and the Nationals have not seen much success. Now, again, baseball's a lot different than a lot of other sports, right? If you get the quarterback position right in football, your team can change pretty much instantly. If you get the superstar in basketball, you're immediately in a finals contender once they're developed. But baseball, it takes more than that. You need a lot of working parts and a lot of moving pieces to form a championship team. And frankly, the Nationals are just not there, right? Like, they don't have the supporting pieces in the minor leagues to help facilitate this team down the road. Another name that is drawing interest from the Nationals is shortstop C.J. Abrams. Now, the Cubs are not linked with him necessarily because we don't need infield help. We are good on that front. Honestly, we're kind of working out here on Cubs Daily how we're going to finagle our infield, right? We know Dansby's at short. We know Michael Busch is at first. We know we want Nico at second base, but again, if we sign Bregman, we might trade Nico, then we can move Matt Shaw there, etc., etc. So infield is not the problem here in Chicago, but stabilizing our pitching absolutely is. And in a name like Mackenzie Gore, I'm curious as to what the Nationals' price is, because every single day, his contract gets closer and closer to him becoming a free agent, and that value goes down, and the Nationals would be fools not to take advantage of trading him at the most value they can get for him. Same with C.J. Abrams. I do not think they're trading James Wood. James Woods is a generational bat that you cannot trade unless you have a lot of great pieces to offer. So, I don't know if the Cubs are necessarily in on Mackenzie Gore, but I know they were intrigued last year. I'm just curious if the Nationals' price has come down, because really what the Cubs could offer them is a lot more major league level pitching, but I don't know if the Nationals would necessarily want to downgrade in that sense. You know, Javier Assad, obviously. I don't know if Matt Shaw or Cade Horton would want to be a part of that deal either. Owen Casey, he might be getting a lot more reps at right field this year, so I don't know if the Cubs are necessarily keen on moving him. Now, again, Kevin Alcantara is an intriguing piece because he needs a spot to play because he's reaching that point in his MILB tenure that he's going to make the major league soon. And, you know, we don't want to lose these guys to the Rule 5 draft, which will be conducted on Wednesday, and that means the Cubs need to get all those minor leaguers on the 40-man roster. That's why James Triantos is on the 40-man roster, right? Because we could possibly lose him, I believe, in the Rule 5 draft. Because, again, we've gone over this list 100 times, ladies and gentlemen. Like, the Cubs have so many prospects that are due up this year or next year that decisions need to be made. So if we're going to push our chips in, let's make a move, right? For Mackenzie Gore. Like for a guy like Joe Ryan. But I am hearing, this is actually a pretty quick one. I am hearing that I've read that the Twins do not want to trade their star players. So Byron Buxton, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, apparently that's not going down. Now, again, I come from the stance of I'll believe it when I see it. I think they're going to cave. The Twins also, amidst potentially selling the team, they will cave. Because the only way you can reset is by shipping off these stars. And even with these guys, they were just a 70-win team. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to supplement that roster in the way that a team like the Twins, a low-market team like the Twins can, without spending a lot of money. They tried with Carlos Correa. It just did not work. And so the Twins, they're going to have to hit the reboot here. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if the White Sox passed them up in the AL Central this year, because the Sox have been down in the dumps for a while. They're ready to start taking those steps. Not saying going to the playoffs or anything, but again, taking those next steps. And Joe Ryan, I think, will become available. And again, that's another name, right? That time keeps on ticking. That time keeps on ticking. I know that Joe Ryan has done really, really well for the Twins, but again, if I was ranking the player that I personally would want on the Cubs, I think Mackenzie Gore has more it factor to him. I think he's got that more swing and miss capability than Joe Ryan. Not that Joe Ryan's a bad player. I'm not saying that. But I would prefer to have Mackenzie Gore over Joe Ryan. I don't think the Cubs are getting either of these guys. I just think the cost in terms of prospect collateral is just way too high and way too unnecessary. And the Cubs, although have built a solid farm system, I'm not sure if the rest of Major League Baseball values these players that we value them, you know? Our highest ranked prospect was Owen Casey last year, and he was 38th, right? There's a lot of teams with a lot of really, really good prospects out there still. So I don't know if we're going to be getting either Joe Ryan or Mackenzie Gore. We might be able to really afford them in our price range once they're down to a year left in their arbitration. So that'd be after this season, per se. And that might be more friendly to what the Cubs are trying to do. But in terms of solving the pitching issue for the Cubs right now, I don't think either of these guys are necessarily on the table. But we know the Cubs they're exploring all options on that front. Now, let's get to something I did hear today, actually. Sorry, I read today on Twitter. There's another gentleman by the name of, where's our guy here? Francis Romero. I just recently started following him because he's been dropping some Cubs nuggets. Not necessarily true, but he is down there in the winter meetings, ladies and gentlemen. Also, just as a side note, if you do not know this, the winter meetings are a free-for-all. Like, you and I, we could go down there. I'm honestly hoping that one day I could record episodes of Cubs Dailies for you guys down at the winter meetings, talk to people, hear what they're saying, and I can bring that directly right to you guys. So continue to show that support on this channel, and I tell you, I will be at those winter meetings reporting to you on Cubs Daily. That is a goal of mine personally. And so this guy, Francis Ramirez, he is there actually on the scene. And, this is something the Cubs might be interested in. And I discussed it. I've never seen the Cubs really pay a closer this much money. Because, again, Robert Suarez was really, really good last year. But it says hearing from the winter meetings that the Cubs are still exploring the closer market with Robert Suarez as one of the ideal candidates. Now, that is something I genuinely like to hear. Again, this is all hoopla, right? This is all just speculation. I've never seen the Cubs once pay over $10 million for a closer. Please drop it in the comments if you have seen that before. Again, maybe contracts were a lot different back then. Maybe you can give me more of an equivalent, right? I'm not sure how much the Cubs paid Lee Smith or Bruce Sutter. I don't know. Maybe they were playing on their rookie deal. I don't know. I personally don't know that, but Robert Suarez is going to command a good amount of money, a good salary. So maybe he signs a 3-year, $36 million deal. I don't know how much he's expecting to make. That would be a lot for the Cubs, in my opinion. But I'm excited to hear that, this is a real possibility because this guy's really good. The only reason he got outed as the closer in San Diego was because they literally gave up the 3rd overall prospect, who was a 17-year-old, for the best closer in baseball. I would have gave it all up for Mason Miller. That's how dynamic Mason Miller is. Guys, he is electric. And Robert Suarez ain't too bad himself. And again, let's take a look at Mr. Robert Suarez, right? He had a really solid year. I think, how many saves does this guy have? He still had 40 saves last year, right? And that's before they brought in, basically, Mason Miller. They used Mason Miller as more of a 1 to 2 inning guy, but Robert Suarez was real. Look at that whip, .904. That's what you like to see. And you can only imagine that his numbers might be even better at a pitcher-friendly park like Wrigley, right? I know Wrigley's not necessarily a pitcher-friendly park, but the way the wind has been blowing these years, yes, it is very pitcher-friendly. And the way that we know that the wind blows in October, especially then. Could you imagine Palencia, then Robert Suarez, you're 8th and 9th, getting shut down, and all you need to figure out is how to solve those first 7 innings? That is something, as a Cubs fan, I personally would like to hear. Do I think this is going to happen? No, I'm not. I don't know what's going to happen, right? The Cubs allegedly have $50 to $60 million in the bank to spend this offseason. I don't know how they're going to diversify that. Again, I imagine a couple free agent signings and a trade. A trade where, you have to deal the likes of your ancillary pitchers like a Javier Assad, like a Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown, maybe even the likes of Matthew Boyd, who was coming off an all-star season. I don't know if we're getting another season like that from Matthew Boyd, ladies and gentlemen. That's a really tough ask of Matt Boyd, who's had kind of more of an up-and-down career. But again, you never know, right? This is baseball. Life is chaotic. You just kind of have to go with the flow. So, what I'm still hearing, though, is that the Cubs are in deep talks with Gallen. I'm not really sure how close we are into a deal with him. Obviously, Bob Nightingale gave us a little tease as to what was being thrown out there, but I'm not sure how close we are there. We did have earlier that John Heyman, he's like we were talking about, right? He also said that the Cubs are still in on Japanese pitcher Tatsuya Imai. Now, again, we also have to remember that we can't just think about 2026, right? We got to think about the 2032 Cubs. No, I'm just kidding. We have to also think about the Cubs, though, after 2026, literally, because this team only has one contract on the books post-2026, and that's Dansby Swanson. Now, again, we do have our players like PCA, Michael Bush, Matt Shaw, and Miguel Amaya, etc., etc. They will be on the team because of arbitration, Justin Steele, etc., etc. But we kind of got to bolster the rotation for the future, right? Because it's going to look thin here. I'm not sure Matt Boyd's coming back. I'm not sure. Oh, sorry. Phil Madion is on the roster, too, by the way, post-2026. But I'm not sure if Jameson Taillon's coming back. I would love for him to come back. I think he's been excellent for this Cubs rotation since we signed him in 2022. But again, I don't know what that price point is going to be for him. So we kind of do have to start thinking about the rotation a little bit. Cade Horton, obviously. So could you imagine a big three, right? We sign Zach Gallen, and then we sign the likes of Tatsuya Imai. Zach Gallen kind of plays out the rest of his career here with the Cubs. Tatsuya Imai and Cade Horton kind of front the rotation. That is something I can get behind as a Cubs fan. And then obviously we fill in the voids with the likes of Justin Steele if his arm comes back healthy and he can rebound in that positive sense. So we have to just remain focused here. The Cubs are going to make moves. I'm not sure what they're going to be necessarily, but they will make moves. And, John Heyman, he was spitting out even more. Look at this down here. Just as a little tidbit note, on the chat today, John Heyman included the Cubs as a possibility for Kyle Schwarber. You see them right down there. It feels like kind of in order. That's the order where it's going to go. The Cubs are absolutely fifth. Do we have a shot? Sure. I'm just not sure if we're going to want to sign him to a 5-year, $150 million deal. I'm not saying that's out of the Cubs' price range, but maybe it'll be out of the price range of the team once we get the pitching we need, because that is ultimately the focus. But again, right, let's say we do sign Tatsuya Imai and Zach Gallen. That means we're going to have to make a move, though, this season, like a trade, okay? Because Javier Assad needs a roster spot, right? Jordan Wicks, that time is coming. Ben Brown has been up and down in the big leagues. Moves are going to have to be made. Players are going to have to find different homes. And that might mean the Cubs might swing those guys for another bat. Now, what that bat's going to be, I don't know because of the quality of those players. But this is where I have to start in my head thinking about, okay, is this where Jameson Taillon gets traded, right? He helps supplement a pitching staff. Or Matt Boyd. Again, Matt Boyd coming off his All-Star season. Is this the best year of Matt Boyd? Possibly, man, possibly. So there's just a lot of different moving parts in this offseason. And, tomorrow's video could generally just be the same or maybe even more, right? I saw something today where it said the Cubs might have to consider Munetaka Murakami. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just going to be a wild, wild ride in these winter meetings, which are going to be over on Monday. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Cubs Daily. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying the content, please hit that thumbs up button for the support. I appreciate every single one of you. And again, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1K. I appreciate every single one of you. It's Go Cubs Go until the end. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.